the way it moves. Welcome to my studio, The Natural World. I'm Sher Kamman. I'm a photographer and a psychologist, and I live in Henniker, New Hampshire, with my husband Kirk, who's filming this, and my golden retriever Willow. I walk this road almost every single day, and I notice how light touches landscape and brings ordinary things alive. It illuminates the beauty of color and texture and form and line. I am so lucky to be part of this. This passion has been with me and in my blood since I was a small girl, 6 years old, and given a Brownie Kodak camera, and has followed me throughout my life. Photography is a part of me every day. One of my passions is to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. In all seasons, we walk or drive past trees every day and casually see them. But what if we looked more deeply?
There you go.
The title of this show, Bend to the Earth, is a metaphor, but I also spent many hours bent over the stream, capturing the beauty and complexity of ice. As I followed it downstream, I was captivated by the pattern of crystals, compositions, and hidden pictures that emerged. Frozen puddles, frozen marshes, and vernal pools like these also held a myriad of surprises. These images were magical. Projects like Bend to the Earth always find me. All of a sudden, there's a felt sense of excitement, flow, and being pulled in a specific direction. Ice has been a focus for me for more than 8 years. I first noticed the shortened winters, less snow, and earlier maple sugaring. When I looked at ice, I began to wonder if someday it would become extinct, and these would be historic images. Juxtapose this with a number of trips to Iceland where I was in awe of the magnificence of the glaciers and mourned their loss as I saw them receding when I returned. It's my hope that these images will bring attention to the melting across the globe so we can take time to honor and preserve this place we call home. In terms of tools and process, I use a Nikon Z6 camera with a 28 300mm lens and an iPhone 15 Pro Max. Both are indispensable in specific situations. I love the process of creating from start to finish. In post-processing, I try to recreate the emotion I felt at the time of capture. Lightroom and other applications help bring these feelings alive. All work uses archival inks and fine art paper that is UV protected and water resistant. They are mounted on wooden cradle boards because I prefer this to the reflective quality of glass. In closing, I'll read the plaque at the site of the first funeral for a glacier lost to climate change in Iceland in 2019. A letter to the future. OK is the first Icelandic glacier to lose its status as a glacier. In the next 200 years, all our glaciers are expected to follow the same path. This monument is to acknowledge that we know what is happening and what needs to be done. Only you know if we did it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Steuernagel, and I'm an artist living in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And this is my studio. I just want to give you a quick view. It's a mess right now because I'm trying to get work done for this upcoming show. I started out as a filmmaker years ago, and in fact for about 30 years I was making movies, and more recently I've begun working with what I call non-electric movies, and those are things like lenticular cards. I don't know if you can see this, but they're movie stills that have been put on lenticular cards. Let's see. Flip books. Perhaps you're familiar with flip books. Crank boxes. This may or may not work. Let's see. We can get this guy going. And also, even more recently, I've started making little sculptures like this. And even more recently, I've begun working with alternative photo processes. And some of the work that you're going to see in this upcoming show that I've created has been done on leaves. Here's an example of a photo that is actually exposed on a leaf. And here are a few more. The process is actually pretty simple. I take the photos, create a positive on a plastic sheet, and that is put on, here we can hold this up, and the plastic sheet is put on top of a leaf. The leaf is put in the sun, and the image is burned into the leaf, and then the leaves are put into a fixer bath, which is usually something like baking soda, and I dry them, and then a few weeks later I use a varnish to try to preserve them, but these are in fact ephemeral, and therefore I take, let's see if I can find them, perhaps over here, I've begun printing them, and you'll see some of these prints in the show, because the leaves themselves will eventually deteriorate, and I wanted to try to preserve the images. And that is a brief visit to my studio. Thanks for listening to this video.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Gordon, and I'd like to welcome you to my studio in Bradford, Vermont. I've made art my whole life. When I was a kid, my dioramas and my models of cells in elementary school were the absolute best. I've worked with all sorts of medium. I've been an artist and art teacher for my whole life. My current passion is encaustic painting. So I'm going to give you a tour around my studio and show you a little bit about encaustics and talk to you a little bit about my work. Encaustics are an ancient and beautiful technique of painting with pigmented waxes. I came to encaustics when I was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, walking down a hallway, and I saw one of these, one of the Fayum mummy portraits, which was an encaustic painting from the Greco-Roman era in Egypt. I was so struck by the luminosity and depth of the portraits that I decided I needed to learn how to do this technique. This is my encaustic setup in my studio. I melt encaustic medium which is a mixture of beeswax and Damar resins with pigments, and I use that to make my paintings. In between each layer of wax, the layer must be fused so that the wax will adhere to the layer underneath it. For that, I use a heat gun or a torch. You have to be careful when you're using a torch. Early in my use of encaustics, I did a mixed media piece with wood shavings and encaustics, and when I was fusing the piece with a torch, I had an exciting moment. Let's just say that it was a good thing I had a fire extinguisher close by. The hot palette that you see here is milled aluminum and is really great. But you can also use a pancake griddle from the thrift store, and they work perfectly well. These are some of the waxes that I use for painting. I also like to use lots of other materials in my paintings, and because of the properties of encaustic and the waxes, it's wonderful for mixed media. I like to incorporate threads and metal leaf and foils. I use tools to scrape away as well as brushes to put color down. I can draw back into my paintings with oil pastels and with wax pencils. So if you're a person who likes to do a lot of stuff, this is the medium for you. Let's take a look around my studio. I just finished framing all my pieces for the AVA show, so it looks a little bit more formal in here than it does normally. My work has two aspects to it. One aspect is the content, and the content of my work is the northern woodlands, the northern forest. Every day I take a walk and I'm just overwhelmed by the beauty of the natural life around us. I'm also very sad because of the decline of our northern forests due to climate change, invasive species, and other things that affect our natural world. So what I want to do is document what we have now and encourage stewardship of it for future generations. The second aspect of my work is process. I'm one of those artists that loves doing something and then doing something else and then doing something else. Encaustic is the perfect medium for me. If you look at this painting, you can see that I've used all sorts of metallic foils. I've used threads. I've painted and I've scraped away. My paintings are layered. I typically start with a background painting, then I put a layer of encaustic medium, which is transparent, on top of that, and then I do more painting in the foreground. I scrape things away. I add other things back on. And in this way, I achieve a great sense of depth. I believe that the sparkly bits in this painting give a sense of movement to the painting. I can almost feel the leaves blowing and hear the wind whistling by. Messing around with materials is one of the great joys of painting, drawing, or really any other creative endeavor. If you'd like to see more of my artwork, you can look at my website, sbgordonart.com, or look me up on Instagram. My handle is sbgordonart. I hope you've enjoyed taking this tour with me, and I also hope you enjoy the show.